you for joining us during our weekly hybrid MLS breakfast meetings. My name is Tomas Wong, and I'm your May program chair. A little bit about me. Many years ago, the first company I worked for, once again, my first time I got my real estate license, the company was Herbert Hawkins. And some of you here I know work for Herbert Hawkins. Back then, that was a very successful company, and I can see some of your affiliates did transaction as well. So for those who never heard about Herbert Hawkins, you can guess the year that I joined that real estate office by giving you my DRE number. My DRE number starts with the 991, and the last digit is also a 9. So you can more or less guess the year that I became a part-time agent for Herbert Hawkins. So before we give a warm welcome to our city mayor, Vinh, I would like to take the opportunity to read his bio. So it will be my pleasure to do it. So Vinh Go is a senior vice president and risk executive at the Bank of America, overseeing the commercial real estate portfolio for Chicago to the West Coast. He joined the bank in 1996 after graduating from USC with the dual degrees in accounting and real estate finance. His leadership at the bank includes serving as an advisor for the Leadership Development Program, Chair Emeritus of the Asian Leadership Network, and co-chair of the Greater Los Angeles Asian Business Council from 2015 to 2024. Vinh is the current mayor of the Monterey Park, elected to the city council in 2022. He previously served on the Garvey School District Board from 2017 to 2022, including 2 terms as president, and is the current board president of the Garvey Educational Foundation. So he is also the chair of the Chinatown Service Center, and since 2008, Vinh has received the President Volunteer Service Award annually for over 500 hours of service each year. He's a busy guy. He was honored with Bank of America Global Diversity and Inclusion Award in 2017 and the Golden Apple Award in Education in 2023. So please join me to welcome our city mayor, Vinh Go.
So before I get started, I just out of curiosity, how many of you have been in your role or in the industry that you're serving now more than 5 years? Just a hands up. More than 10 years, more than 15 years, 25 years. Okay, good. So I just want to kind of get a few, because I'm speaking to a lot of industry veterans. So I've been doing my role for 29 years. So it's easier to just kind of translate that. I'll keep it simple today. I know we have 30 minutes. I'll break that into 2 parts, 15 minutes about the city, and in 15 minutes, what I think will be more useful for you. Being in the real estate industry, we'll talk about economics and interest rate. I think that will have more of a ring to you from your experience. So first, I think there's a slide for the city. There's like 7 or 8 slides, so we can move through it. But I'm going to talk about the history of Monterey Park, the recent work that we've been doing. So for me, it's only been 2.5 years, and then the future work, what needs to be done for the city. The basic thing is this: Monterey Park has been around since, anyone know how long? I mean, it's there, but 109 years, right?
Yes.
So it's somewhere between World War I and World War II. But the city, ideally, like after World War I, the city was formed for the reason of we didn't want people to dump stuff into our city. If you think about where like land started in the San Gabriel Valley, it's basically the Mission area by San Gabriel and in Pasadena, because that's kind of where the center is when you start, the early start of home growth. They wanted to put a sewer system and make Monterey Park a landfill kind of south through Pasadena. So the city residents at that point said, no, can't do it. We're going to incorporate as a city to stop that project. So instead of being a landfill, we said, nope. And it got incorporated. So for the first 15, 20 years, really nothing happened because you stop someone from doing something, but there was really no growth. And then you kind of add that into World War I ending, the Depression, World War II. So nothing really started in terms of growth and homes until after World War II, right? So that's the Marshall Project in Europe, and then growth started happening, and Monterey Park started developing. At that point in time, if you guys know the area, Marquette High School was built after World War II, and that started growth in the community, okay? So Monterey Park, if you think about the transition of the city, in the 50s, after the war, you had some of the Jewish community move out here because they were not welcome in the called Beverly, Wilshire area. And then in the probably late 50s, the Japanese American kind of moved into Monterey Park. Why? Because when they had their homes before the war, it was pretty much all of, think of Koreatown now. That's where they live. But during the war, they were incarcerated or they were moved into the camps. So when they came back, they lost their homes. And they couldn't build their homes back in Koreatown. And Little Tokyo was too small. You think about just the landmass, think about Chinatown, too small. So they started coming into the San Gabriel Valley, and Monterey Park was where they can actually grow and live. So at one point, we had about a 33% population of Japanese Americans in Monterey Park. That was in the, call it late 40s, 50s. And then in the 60s and 70s, the Hispanic community came into the city. And then in the, what I call it, the 70s, it became the Chinese community, late 70s, early 80s, called the boat people, which is kind of my, my background. I was a Chinese immigrant from Vietnam, so we came in 79. And then 80, 81, 82, Taiwan and Hong Kong. And then in the 90s, China. So you think about the growth of the city, you think about diversity, we're all there, right? There's a mixture of that. So today, there's a 65% Asian, probably 30% Hispanic, and then the rest is other, okay? So we'll kind of go through the slide here. This is City Hall, and I think you guys know where this building is. This is the original City Hall back in 1924. This is on Garvey and just one block north of Garfield, Baltimore. Okay, this is where Elizabeth Yang has her law office. That's the building. So she bought this a few years ago. Okay, yeah, you'll know a lot of these. Let's go on to the next slide real quick. So this is Cascade on Atlantic. Where for you guys been here 25 years, you know where Ding Ho Market, that area, and El Encanto. So this was the early, I mean, think about this. In the 1920s, they were trying to get people to come in. And this is the view looking down from El Repetto or Kingsford. So that was the site you have. So that's in the 20s. Let's go to the next slide. This is El Encanto, where we held meetings. This is now refurbished. That was a meeting place. That was kind of like the center of town for many years for the city. Okay. Let's go to the next slide. Old Garvey School. And the first students of Inez. So Inez is on Inez and Garvey. All right, where the Noodle Cafe is. And then Garvey School is actually on Jackson. It's actually in the city of Rosemead. So you think about the San Gabriel Valley, it's basically Huntington and Garvey, Richard Garvey. They own all the land out here because they were the first out here. And they started selling the land and developing the land. So Richard Garvey was a postal guy. He worked in the post office, and then he basically retired, bought land and sold land. And he had, I mean, his ranch, you think about square miles, right? Pretty incredible. But Garvey School is where the school is. And he actually had a house up by Garvey Ranch Park by the observatory. That was his house, and the backyard was Garvey School, which is probably a mile and a half, but extended, okay? Let's go to the next picture. So I think that's anyone know that corner? You probably can't figure out because it's not an easy one. So this is Garvey and Garfield. Which corner? This is the northwest corner. Okay. Not ABC, opposite the street. There's a little bank there. And there's a little, not tea station, boba place. Tenren, right? But that's that building. Okay. Yes. Okay. Let's go to the next picture. Okay. This is probably 70s.
Atlantic Square.
Atlantic Square, Atlantic and Floral. Okay, so see, he's been around, he knows.
Wells Fargo Bank right there.
Yeah. And you see that little fan? That's the restaurant.
I was a resident before they.
Okay. That building there is the Bank of America building on the corner of Garfield and Garvey. I had to show that there because I'm very prideful of my work. And then the picture to the right, Lily Chan. That was when she got elected. She's the first Asian American woman to be elected as a city council and mayor. But where she stands is right in front of the original Samwoo restaurant. Now it's Samtang. That's Samwoo, right outside Samwoo. Mandarin Noodle, if you look, you can see Mandarin Noodle. If you look like to the right and to the right, where the car is, that light, that's Chandler. So that Mandarin Noodle is just on the corner. Yeah. Okay. We're gonna go to one more picture. Okay. That's the demographic. By population, we're about 60,000 people. But the reality is, I tell people this all the time, and you guys will probably agree or disagree. We probably have about 75,000 people in the city. Okay. On record, we're 60,000, but off record, we're about 75,000 people. Okay. 7.7 square miles. And you look at the median income, you look at the median property value, 818. That's kind of unbelievable. All right. That's inflation. Right. We're kind of like the bedroom community. If you think about LA going east, we're probably the first one there. We've got 3 freeways, the 10, the 60, and the 710. So I won't go into all that detail because you guys live around here. Look at the kind of like the population mix you see there. Okay. Let's go one more slide. Let's see what the next slide is. Okay. Well, we'll stop there. Let's go back one slide and then. So that's kind of like the basics of the city. In terms of the recent work that we have done, so I've been in the city now for 2.5 years. You guys are in commercial real estate. So let me do a quick disclaimer before I get into that. Everything I say today reflects my personal view. Don't hold it against my employer nor the city. Okay. I try to stick with facts. So a lot of this stuff is facts, but there will be blended opinion there. Okay. What we've been going through in the last 2.5 years, we redid our water treatment system. That was a $15 million process over 3 years. We remove all the PFAS from the water, so our water is safe. Our water treatment system actually sits in the city of Rosemead off of Delta and Garvey. You guys may have seen that. It's in the city of Rosemead. The way the city was designed, again, going back to Richard Garvey, there is a pipe system that runs from the water system going up Garvey from Rosemead all the way through to the golf course on Garvey. And it pumps water back up the hill to Hillcrest, El Repetto area, Brightwood, and Highlands. Those are the schools. And then there are water retention areas. That services the city. We also have a sewage system, different line, that also runs parallel to that. And that sewage system gets flushed down to the San Gabriel River. Okay. So that's a $15 million plus project that we worked on. In the last 2 years, and I was very instrumental in this process, almost 50% of all our roadways were repaved, resurface. So you'd say 50%, yeah, whatever, Vin. That's a very monumental task because in many parts of every city, the roadworks get done every 15 years. We did almost half of them in 2 years. Why? Because we were behind, and that was one of my priorities. That's one. And two, remember the rainstorms we had in the last 3-4 years? Very critical. So the roads were beat up, so you had to fix them. And we repaved the majority of that. Okay. Among other things, with COVID, the community has changed, life has changed, right? So we went from people went to work 9 to 5 to now people are now working more from home, or people were at home for 4 or 5 years, now going back to work. So what does that mean? Safety, public safety has always been a priority. You cannot have a community until you have public safety. So in the last few years, we increased our FTE, full-time employees for police by 2.5 police officers, and fire by 3. It's like, oh man, whatever. What does that mean too? If you kind of go back in time, in the last, I think it was 1996 or 97. Oh, no, it was 97, before 97 was the last time we had an increase in police. In fact, we've been going down in police in terms of FTE. We at one point had 90 officers. We're now back to 76 officers. So it tells you every city's going through this, just reduce because of inflation. So our city had a growth, and that was part of our priority in the current council group. That's the recent work we've done. Future work, like every city, and you guys are all in development, just think of yourself as living in the same community. Some of you have lived there for 30 years. Some of you have lived there for 10 years as work. You all live in the same condo complex. You pay HOA. For someone who's been there 5 years, you're thinking, I'm paying $500 to my HOA, but I got that roof that's like 50 years old. For someone who's been there 30 years, I've been there 30 years. I pay my HOA. I'm tired of paying HOA. I know we need a new roof, but I'm going to pay as little as possible. So that's what the city went through in terms of the budget and expenses, right? So going forward, we need to grow the city. And let's kind of flip the slide. Some of the project that's going up. So this is a 64 residential unit. This is approved. They are breaking ground soon. This is on Alhambra, south of Newmark, between Newmark and Graves, closer to Newmark, okay? 64 residential units. Let's go to the next one. You guys know this project. This is on New Avenue and by Garvey. So this is the old New Avenue School. I live very close to this. This is 63 townhomes. The models will be done in about a month and a half. It's gone up pretty fast. The school closed down in 2017. My kids went there, so I remember. They closed down the school. It was vacant for about 5 years. They got the mapping, and they started construction about 2 years ago, right? Models will be up in a few months, and then I think the units will be sold maybe the middle of next year, okay? You can check out the price points and all that on the website. Chateau is the builder. Next slide. So this is a small market on the corner of Nicholson and Garvey. This is basically the view I'm looking at. I'm looking at the Shell station, the Shell gas station, looking at this, okay? This was a used car lot for many years. Mr. Zhao owns properties throughout Monterey Park and is a very involved individual in the community. Okay, let's go to the next slide. This is now built. It's just under construction, but it's built. It's the storage place off of corporate park, corporate center. So I'd say this is kind of like this. Yeah, there's one build. This is the southwest corner of the city. Okay, next slide. So this one's already done. This is the Meat Fresh. This is the Holiday Inn. That was a car dealership and a old hotel for many, many years. Hotel opened about a year ago. This is a multi-phase project. If you kind of take it's from Garvey all the way to Chandler. There are apartments in the back, and there are also condo units in the back. Okay. Let me see what the next one is. Okay, that's it from the city. Is that about 15 minutes?
You still have 2 minutes.
Only 2 minutes?
2 minutes and then 5 minutes.
Okay, all right.
So you wrap it up.
I thought it was 30 minutes.
Now you are here. You are 9:45.
Wait, it's 9:38. Okay, all right.
2 minutes.
All right. So I will go quick. Okay, so I'm sorry that took a little longer. Okay, I want to kind of talk about the industry stuff, right? What are the 3 things that keep me up at night? People always ask me this because I'm responsible for a few $1 billion in portfolio management for the bank. And you can add a 0 to that few billion. What keeps me up at night? So no, not actually no. What I say is the White House administration. I try to stay away from the politics of this, right? But the White House administration, because of one, you can have a little bit confusion, you can be uncertain, you can be erratic, and then there's chaos. I think we have a little bit of chaos. Okay. 2, interest rates. Where are we with interest rate? I think Mr. Greenspan just spoke yesterday or this morning. Basically, he's not wavering to the White House administration of lowering the interest rate. He's going to keep the rate the same. That has to do a lot with inflation, tariffs, and behavior elasticity. Yeah, go a little bit more into that. And then the thing is world conflicts. What does that mean? Well, there's a war in Russia, Ukraine, the Middle East, Taiwan, China, potentially, India, Pakistan. What does it matter here? Well, it does matter because 1, we're a global economy. 2, it really has to do with safety and travel. That's where it hits you, okay? So the White House uncertainty. Governments are formed not to make money. Period. That's how governments form. Governments are formed to help the country, its residents, just like the city is. I always think that the kind of like the best person in your city, in your community, is driven by the lowest link. If you can't help that lowest link become elevated, then your city will ever be the lowest link. So that's part of government, to help everybody get up. If everyone's in the middle class, that's a strong middle class country. I get, the US is opportunistic. You have your wealthy, you have people who are suffering, you have people who need help. But if you can't help the people get up to where it's the basic to minimum wage, then everyone in the world is going to look at you and say, you got homelessness, you got mental issues. How good is your country? Yeah, you got millionaires, you got billionaires, but how good is your country? So that's part of it. And when we think about what the White House is doing, we're cutting a lot of what I call federal resources. Yeah, there's some waste in any kind of bureaucracy, any kind of government. That's understandable, right? But what about taking away research money? Because think about all these grants at all the universities. There's research, there's cancer research. Think about the medications that are for stuff that people stumble upon. Weight loss medicine, Post-it notes. They weren't developed for those purposes. The Post-it notes were developed because of glue. Weight loss medicine were depression, anxiety medication that kind of serve as different purpose. So all that was because of research at all the different universities that came about. Okay, I think Tomas is telling me it's almost time. So that's what we need to do from a big picture. To run a government, you need stability, you need consistency, not erratic chaos, because now no one knows what's going on. Okay, interest rates, inflation. Inflation is going to happen over time, but you got to keep it at a certain rate. And in the U.S., it's been 2%. COVID drove it up. It was controlled, and now it's going crazy again. Tariffs. We are going to pay more. I don't care if that's 10% or 30% tariffs. If it's 10%, we're all going to pay 10% more. The key to me here is elasticity. We all will pay, we all will spend, but how much? Think about this. Well, I guess the time has changed a little bit this week, but just last week you talked about 401k. Just about 2 weeks ago in your mindset, did you ever think about the culture, the framework? It's like, I'm not eating out this week, or I'm changing my behavior. I used to eat every weekend. Now I'm going to cut back a week. I used to travel twice a year or 3 times a year. Now I'm traveling one because I want to watch my spending behavior. And we got into a little bit of that. The 401k, if you leave it there, you'll be fine because that stays through the test of time. Now, for you who are working just 5 years into your role, leave it in there. It'll be fine in the next 15, 20 years. For those of you who have been 40 years, what I call veterans, you need to diversify that a little bit. That now's not the time, but you should be diversifying that over time from an investment standpoint. Okay. And then world conflicts, again, when you travel, I had travel plans to go to Egypt 2 years ago. We changed that because of the conflict there. And that's going to ring true for everyone. No one's going to India or Pakistan right now, or to Ukraine or Eastern Europe because of the war. Like, why would you put yourself in that danger, even though you know it could be safe? Why would you? You go somewhere else. So that's driving world travel. And then again, inflation, tourism, White House policy. Tourism is going to be down, unfortunately. Not only because of spending, but also because of the branding of America. When you're keeping people out, everyone's a patriot for their own country, just like we are for our country. So travelism will be down from outside the U.S. The U.S. dollar remains strong, so we continue to go, but it gets to a point where the U.S. dollar is not as strong, and then you go less travel abroad. So I'll stop there, and I'll have Q&A. I'll stick around a little bit, yeah.
I noticed you didn't mention anything about the southeast corner. I noticed that you didn't mention anything about the southeast corner of Garvey and Garfield and Garvey.
Yes.
Anything going on with that?
Yes. So that is a project. Celadon is the name of the project. I did not mention that because they actually had permits, and it was approved plan for mixed retail. It was I want to say the number was 100 something units, right? It was over 100 unit and almost 150,000 square feet of retail. The developer was supposed to break ground about 1.5 years ago. Given what happened to the interest rate, so this is around November of 1.5 years ago, or 2 years ago now, they decided to change up the plan. So they're gonna remap it, because they're gonna change, I think because retail doesn't work now, 150,000 square feet. My view, again, personal opinion, probably take the retail down to maybe ground floor retail. That's about 40,000 square feet along the base of the storefronts, and then more single family residential condos. That's their plan. They haven't really signaled it to us, but that's my view. Okay. Yes.
Good morning, Mayor Vinh. Thank you for being here. Excited to have you. Sylvia here. My question is, as realtors, schools also matter. So I did grow up in Studio City, but I did graduate from Marquepo High School. Can you please give me the status on what where it ranks? Because at one point it was ranked and I'm sorry for this, but it was ranked like the dumpiest school in the nation.
Oh, no, this is not that. We're
Is
far
that
from
fake
that.
news?
So,
Okay,
so when I graduated from Marquepo in class of 91, we were probably a 7 out of 10 in the area. So Marquepo High School is really the crown jewel of the public schools in the San Gabriel Valley outside of Arcadia High School, which is a lot bigger. But the demographics are different in Arcadia because your homes are 3-4 million. Monterey Park, we're 800,000-ish. But Marquepo is basically the power school in the community. And then within the Hamburg Unified School District, Brightwood, Highlands are up there. They're like 10s for public school. Yeah. And then you go to the Garvey School District, I'll give some props like Mar Vista and Hillcrest are 10 and 9.5s in the Garvey School District.
Good morning. Good morning, Mayor. I wanted to ask you for your infrastructure, the water line that you guys changed. Where did the funding come from?
The funding for the infrastructure, a lot of that was basically reserved, set aside over the years. And we did get a bond a few years back, and that money went to pay for that. Remember, most cities run on an annual budget. Think about your budget, except this is the city. We are actually currently negotiating through 8 different unions. Police, fire, clerks, library, the operations people, so 8 different unions. We're negotiating that, and we got to get that done for next year's budget. Those contracts come up every 2-3 years. That's just the nature of the beast. Think about what you guys do. If you work for a company, if you work for a corporate place, every so many years, what do? You ask for a pay raise, right? And with inflation, everyone wants a lot more. Our responsibility as the city council is to make sure my mantra for the city is to make the city the best place to live, in that priority, best place to live, best place to work, and best place to play. Am I ever going to get there? I hope to. That's my dream state, and that's my goal. But best place to live means public safety. Best place to work means you got to bring business into the city. And best place to work means development to create activities for adults and for children. Langley Center and the library and the parks host many, many different events, right? But we're a city of 60,000. We're not LA. So we have to do what's best for us. And we also need to make it so that it's worthwhile for our staff, a place for them to work. It's always a constant juggle. So that's what we are tasked to do. Hi, Alex.
Good morning, Mayor. Does the city have a plan to plan or commit to rebuild Monterey Park's icons? Is Olympic size pool?
I know he was going to bring this up. The pool has always been a struggle because the pool was built in the 60s and 70s. It was 60, 70 years old. It was leaking 1 million gallons of water a year. The pool has been under discussion for repair back in the 2000s. And I'll take a little bit of history in this. Way before my time, not that I want to take ownership for this, but back in 2015, they wanted to fix the pool. The fix was $3.5 million to remodel. This is 2015 now. And this was a council meeting record. So you can go look up record. $3.5 million just to renovate. I think it was like $8 million to build a new one. 2015. 2019-ish, it was probably beyond repair at that point. 2019, 2020, it was about $12 million to build. Obviously, the city didn't have funds, again, to set aside funds to build that. Today, we look at some of the surrounding communities, it's probably close to 22 million and up to build a pool. Now, again, when the city builds a pool, it's not you building a pool in your backyard where I can get the handy guy to build it. With the city, it's got to be public works. It's got to be public bid. It's got to be prevailing wages. It's got to go through timing, input. So whatever you think the cost is to build your backyard pool, if it's a public agency, it's probably 150% more than that. That's most public projects. So with the pool, with the pool, what we're trying to do is we're trying to wrap it up because remember, we've been around 109 years. All our parks need help, the infrastructure. So we're doing a master plan for all the parks, including the pool. And in order to do that, that price tag could be 60 million, 70 million. We're getting input, and that input will be done by this fall. And we will have a price tag, and we are going to take it back to the voters to say, guys, the community, best place to live, infrastructure, it's going to cost 75 million to redo all 13 parks, including the pools, gyms, the basketball courts. That's the price tag. Voters, you tell us if you want to push for this. And if everybody says yes, we get the money, we build it. If the voters say no, what more can we do? We work for the voters. So that's the plan for the pool. Okay? Right.
Thank you, Mayor Nguyen. I have a question. So earlier you were mentioned about there's either future project or currently a building project that was near Newmarks. Can I know what's the cross street near the? Newmark?
Newmark and Garvey. It's basically the old New Avenue School.
Is that cross from the Bank of America, that empty?
No, Newmark.
Newmark.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
New and Garvey.
New and Garvey.
New and
Okay,
Garvey.
got it.
Yeah, New and Garvey. You can't miss it because that's the big construction.
Okay,
Yeah,
got it.
it's the old New Avenue School. Okay, so it's between Emerson and Garvey, closer to Garvey.
Okay,
Right.
thank you. So on behalf of the association, I would like to thank our City Mayor Vinh for the very informative presentation. Please join us next week as we welcome CRMLS. They will be here sharing the latest on CRMLS.